Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of the Pet Behavior Chat. And we've got such a treat in store today because we are joined today by the lovely Eileen, and she's going to share with us a little bit about her doggy Mutley's journey through his behavioral health. So incredibly, Eileen and I started working together in March of 2020, so right on the cusp of COVID. And since then, we've been on quite the journey together, everything kind of from separation anxiety through fear of people coming to the home, through fear of people outside, and then culminating in 2 international air travel journeys, one to Ireland and one to Germany, which is where Eileen's joining us from today. So hi, Eileen. It's so lovely to have you with us today.
Hi, Dr. Katrin. How are you? It's really good to be in contact with you guys. I know that you're always at the end of a phone call, but it's really good to be on this. I really enjoy these chats.
Amazing, amazing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you and the gorgeous Mutley came to be a pair, how you kind of got him, where he came from, how you found him, or how you found each other, I think is probably better to say. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I always grew up with dogs, but I come from the countryside in Ireland. So all of our dogs, they always could play outside and be outside. I was living in Abu Dhabi for about, I think, 11 years at the time. And I refused to get a dog because I wanted them to be outside. I thought, dogs can't live in the apartment. We had a new teacher that started in school, and she was after sending her dog to get groomed in one of the grooming places, and they had some dogs up for adoption. So I saw this beautiful, tiny little thing online, and I went down to see him. And Mutley always has been a very nonchalant guy. He was like, yeah, lick my face, and then was like, okay, come on, kind of let's go. So we picked each other out. I waited for about a week, and then I got to call down and get Mutley. His name was Biggs, actually, at the time. So I got him, took him home, and my life has not been the same since. It's been fantastic. It's been an amazing journey where I've learned so much about myself, about animals, about the way that I interact, about the way that dogs interact. It's just been inspiring, actually.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Pets come into our lives often for a reason, and they touch our lives in so many different ways. And I think especially those dogs that maybe are a little bit challenging or that pose some challenges, like you say, they really force us to kind of look at ourselves and, kind of think about what we're doing and how we're interacting with not only them, but kind of the world around us. So tell me a little bit about, so you got the gorgeous Mutley and he kind of joined your life. And what were the sort of the first signs of concern that you had, or what were the first things that caused you to get worried about him and his behavioral health?
So that was back in 2019, like you said, just before COVID. It was August. He was such a happy-go-lucky dog when he was with me and when he was around people. Unfortunately, he started to get lots of anxiety when I left the house. I couldn't go to the bathroom without him sitting up on the sofa and looking over and just peering at me and then going into the bathroom and checking things out afterwards. He used to bark and cry. So I took him to a day boarding facility where he stayed. And I thought, this is the best thing for him, that he is in there and he's safe, he's being looked after. And I've made contact with the people that were in charge of it, and they treated him very well. Then, unfortunately, a colleague of ours in school passed away, and it was very late in the evening, in fact, early in the morning. And I got to support the people. 2 of the ladies came over to my apartment. It was about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And of course, they were very upset. And to my best thinking, my best knowledge, that's where his unfriendliness started to creep in. I think he was afraid, A, it was in the middle of the night. B, they were obviously very upset. They were crying and he was just very unsure. So the next day I went to school and I left him at home. And of course, there was more people calling in and out. And just since that, I think that that's what triggered his anxiety towards people being around him and in the apartment.
Yeah. And I mean, I hear this really commonly that, that there can be a single inciting event. It's possible that maybe the levels of anxiety were already there, but that something happened, people were acting in a way that he couldn't interpret and he didn't know what to do with. And that made him feel really uneasy and really uncomfortable. Yeah, poor little dude. And So how did you then kind of come to find us, and how did you, or when did you feel it was serious enough to start thinking about working with a veterinary behavior team?
I was very worried about him because he started to snap at people when they came into the house. He
Mm.
really was very protective of the door and what was going on at the door. And I was Googling things and it was saying, to cross your arms and to turn your back and all of these things, but it wasn't doing anything to help. Um, and then I was actually scrolling through Facebook one evening with him sitting at my feet, and I came across an ad, strangely enough, for a German vet. So that was for you. So I was Googling you, and then I was Googling what is a pet behaviors, what is a therapist, what can these people do? So I just sent an email and just said that I would be very interested in coming along and having a chat. And that's where things started turning again for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember our first consultation really vividly, actually. And, I remember it was in our then sort of old behavior room. And I remember actually you having quite a lot of sort of aha moments in that first consultation, that actually we were dealing with a dog who was really worried and really anxious. Was that something that you'd considered before, that, pets had mental health issues as well, or that was a thing? Or what were the aha moments for you in that first consult?
Yeah, I knew that dogs could get anxious, but I just thought it was, oh, they'll get over it. Very much kind of like, just like all of my previous dog had been farm dogs, and they would be in and they would be out. And I guess it was kind of I don't know if they were tougher dogs, if it was just the way that they were raised. And again, they were all brought from reputable breeders. So we could trace back, and we knew the parents of the dogs, we knew the families, because we're from a very small area in Ireland. And I didn't think that a dog could be that anxious or really suffer from depression or really get things eating in on them. And I think this is the time that it was becoming more popular and more easy for people to start talking about having their own anxiety as well.
Right.
So that could kind of made me a little bit more open to it. But I might just skip ahead a little bit. When you suggested that he goes on some medication, I was really upset. I don't know if you knew it that day, but I was so upset. I felt like such a failure. I know I really did. And I went home and I just cried my little eyes out with, just got, oh my God, what should I do? Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing by putting him on medication? That has been absolutely inspiring for me as well. It's changed. If you remember, about 2 weeks after he went on, I'm terrible at the names of the medication, but after he went on the little white ones.
The sertraline. Yeah, the sertraline.
He hadn't had the zoomies in such a long time, and he was about 8 months, I think, at that stage, 8 or 9 months. And he started getting the zoomies again, and he was playful, and he was just, it kickstarted something in him again. I remember messaging you and your team and just saying, I've got my little boy back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a great point to touch on, because I think you're absolutely right. I think there's been such a stigma about mental health, even for us people. And you're right. In the last few years, it's become a little bit more normal or okay to talk about that. And I think, COVID has had a lot to do with that, because we've kind of recognized the importance of social contacts and how, detrimental isolation can be for us and all those things. And, the kind of all the conversations around human mental health have become much more open and much more acceptable and much less taboo. And I feel, or I hope, that we're kind of moving in the same direction when it comes to our pets. But I do see the same reaction that you had to the thought of Mutley going on medication. I do still encounter that. I think, and you're right, people feel like they've done something wrong, right? Like they failed their dogs or cats in a way that, what have I done, to kind of cause this problem? And what have I done to make my dog anxious? But actually, it's absolutely nothing to do with you. And I often say to people, this is how you got them. They already came probably with a lot of their brain health already pre-programmed and pre-wired. And that's to do with genetics and early life experiences. And especially here in the UAE, you just mentioned that most of your dogs in Ireland, you knew the breeders, they came from reputable breeders. Well, here in the UAE, we just don't have that luxury. There are so many dogs where we have no clue what their early life, and by early life, I mean that period between sort of 2 to 3 and 16 weeks. So the first 4 months of their lives, we don't know what happened to them in that time. So they come with their mental health already somewhat pre-formed, and it's 100% nothing that you did, at all, as I know you now know. But Yeah, that's actually, no, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that you felt
Yeah.
really disheartened.
Oh, I
Yeah.
was so disheartened. And I remember at the time just thinking, who is this lady? I Googled you, but honestly, like who are you? How can I trust you? Are you not just some, and I'll say it to you now because I'm in Germany and you're in Abu Dhabi, but are you just some new age kind of hippie that wants to drug my dog?
Right.
And that has been the attitude of not quite a few. It's less and less actually. People, when I say yes, he's on Searchland and he takes different things. We'll come to it later on, but when he goes traveling, and it's like, oh, she drugs her dog, and then I will start recalling the things that you've said to me bit by bit, and I relay that back to them, and it just gets them to go, oh, okay. But yeah, that has been the attitude of some people as well. Oh, you drug your dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, that if those medications are used in the wrong hands, they absolutely can do not what we want them to do. I think one of the biggest concerns that people have is it going to change my dog? Is it going to turn them into a zombie? Is it going to
That's
just
it. Yeah.
sedate them, right? Is it just going to sedate them into oblivion and so that they can't behave? When actually what we're trying to do is, as you've just said, bring out that playful side, that goofy side, that true personality that's being suppressed by the anxiety that they're experiencing. We want that dog back. We don't want a zombie dog that's just kind of lying around depressed in the corners. And if that's what's happening, then that's the wrong choice of medication, or then you're working with somebody who doesn't know the medications very well.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I thought would happen. I was so nervous giving him the drugs, and I knew that we had to adjust the medication and things like that. So I was getting upset and I was worried and I didn't want to leave him. But it's worked out magnificently. He's such a happy, chirpy little boy.
He is.
Still hates people coming into the apartment. Absolutely hates it. But that's okay too.
Yeah, and I think some of the time it's also about accepting, that's his safe zone, that's his safe space. Being in that apartment is where he feels safe and comfortable, and that's one of the most important motivators to many dogs, is that feeling of safety and security. So yeah, absolutely. If somebody unfamiliar comes into that space, that might be really worrying for him, and that's when he might respond with behaviors such as barking or, voicing that and being allowed to voice how he feels in that moment. And then working with strategies, to help kind of deal with those things.
Yeah. So what I've been doing lately is if anybody comes into the apartment, I spray his lead, I spray his little collar, and I leave him on the lead with me. So he can go so far, and then he just sits down and he relaxes. So instead of me having my anxiety about him rushing at somebody or frightening somebody or whatever, I can control that better in myself because I know that he picks up on my feelings as well.
Yeah. And so when you say spray, I'm presuming you mean the Adaptil spray
Adaptil.
that we, yeah.
Oh
exactly.
my God, that's been absolutely amazing. I didn't actually tell you, we traveled in Europe. Unfortunately, Mutley is a little bit too long, too big to fit in one of the little bags to go on the airplanes. So we travel from here to Paris and then Paris to Cherbourg, and we can get a pet-friendly ferry from Cherbourg to New Ross in Ireland. So we've got our own little cabin. And I never sent them on to you, but I took some pictures of him just on his little bed when he's not allowed to be on the bed, but that doesn't matter. He was on the bed, and I just had sprayed the place with the Adaptil spray. And we went into the cabin. I sprayed the entire place. We went outside. We had to walk around the deck. I brought him back inside, and he was sniffing, and then he just got up in the bed and just. So I've got the Adaptil there, but yeah, I'll send it on to you.
That's amazing. Yeah, please. But yes, please definitely send it on. So just for anybody listening who isn't familiar with Adaptil, so Adaptil is actually a pheromone spray. So it's called dog appeasing pheromone. It used to be called many years ago DAP. Now it's Adaptil. And it's actually the pheromone that the mother dog produces when she's nursing her puppies. So it conveys that feeling of calm, I'm taking care of you, you can relax. And I use Adaptil a lot in many of my consultations. Some dogs it works amazingly for, like Mutley. A small number of dogs it won't do much for, but it's definitely one of those tools that is a really good adjunctive. It's not a medication. It doesn't have any side effects. That there's nothing to worry about. You can't overdose on Adaptil. So I'm so pleased to hear that. Yeah, no, I didn't know that you were now a traveler by ferry as well to add to your list of accomplishments.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he travels a lot.
That's amazing. I just want to quickly come back to one point, because I think this is a really important piece, the fact that, that building of that trust between us. And I think that's something really important for anybody who's wanting to work with a pet behavior professional or any kind of professional that's going to come into their animals' lives. What do you think it was that helped you to establish that kind of trust relationship with myself and the team? Was it that things were working, or was it the communication style? Was it the science that was behind it? Or what do you think it was that helped you kind of build that trust?
Pretty much everything that you've just said. I'm a teacher, so I study a lot into early childhood education. And when you mentioned about the chemical imbalances in his brain and being separated from his mom, well, we don't really know what happened, but we're presuming that that's more than likely what happened. Maybe he was, I hate to say it, maybe he was on a puppy farm and that's how he came to be placed. Yeah. And that when you had explained all of that to me, and then it clicked with me that for early education psychology, that we see issues like that in some of our students, unfortunately. So I was thinking to myself, well, you'd explained that so well. I'm like, okay, well, the penny was beginning to drop. It was dangling there for a while. And I remember then, we can talk about Mutley's toenails as well. Oh, his nails. But I remember every time that I went to the veterinary practice, I used to get a phone call afterwards to say, how's Mutley doing? And that showed me that you guys really cared. You actually really cared. It wasn't just like, okay, come in, get your shots, off you go, next. And I could text you at any time. I could ask you guys questions. I could make appointments. If I had any questions, which I had many, you guys were always there to answer.
Okay, that's great to hear. Yeah. And I think would you say that's a recommendation for anybody kind of thinking about working with a pet professional, pet behavior professional, is to kind of, what would you say are the important things to look out for if somebody is thinking of working with somebody to help their pet's behavior?
Do they care?
Yeah.
Do they care? Because I had used somebody, because I thought initially that there was nothing wrong with Mutley. I didn't know really about dog anxiety. I kind of, whatever. But I'd worked with a trainer because I wanted a trainer to train Mutley, because the trainer would train all of these habits, or teach me how to train Mutley out of those habits. I remember in our first visit, you said to me, why do you need a trainer? Like, well, because I was a bit nervous. Well, because, and I told you the exact same reasons. And then you got more and more into the science. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important piece as well, isn't it? That anxiety is not something that we can train out of our pets. It's an emotional. Yeah, I know. And I think a lot of the time, and very rightly, a lot of the time we think we can change the behaviors by training, which is what we've been taught for centuries, right? We just need to teach them something different to change the behaviors. But actually, in order to change the behaviors, we need to tackle the underlying emotional issues. And unless we can get on top of the anxiety, there's not really a whole lot that training is going to help us with. It might help in the short term to change some behaviors, but it won't change the underlying emotional state. And then the emotions come out in a different way, right? Then they pop up in a different behavior. So they never truly go away unless they're dealt with properly. Yeah.
And another thing then was Mutley hates getting his nails cut. Absolutely hates it, detests it. And I needed help. So I brought Mutley in. I think I'd given him some medication, and I brought him in. I think Ilsa, your companion behavior. I remember her exact title, but she was there at the time. And one of the vets, I think it was Dr. Sarah, she was saying, "Oh my goodness, like I can't cut his nails because he might bite her." So they brought down Ilsa to have a look at Mutley, and she said, "No, stop. That's it. Take him home. He's done. You're not doing it today. That's it," because he was too stressed. That's such a beautiful thing. I don't know of very many other, well, I haven't brought Mutley to any other vets recently, apart from the one here, but I don't know of many other places that would have done that. I would have thought, what I thought was going to happen was that he would be muzzled and I would be holding him. But Ilsa just literally came in and said, "No, he's done. That's it. Go home."
Yeah. And that's a lot to do with the way that we practice our fear-free approach and our cat-friendly approach for our kitty cats. And we could absolutely, I mean, Mutley's not big, right? He's a little dude. We could absolutely have physically restrained him. We could have put a muzzle on him. We could have held him tight, like you say, and we could have forcibly cut his nails. We absolutely could have done that. And I would say in the early years of my career, that's probably how I would have done it. And I also know that there are probably many of my colleagues that would still do it like that, because we're getting a job done. And for anybody who listened to episode 10, that's a little bit what Andrew and I spoke about in that episode, that whole kind of care versus task. It's about getting the task done, i.e. getting the nails cut, versus actually considering how does he feel in this moment. And I often liken it to us going to the dentist. Can you imagine if you were just kind of strapped into the dentist chair, held down, and you had no voice in that moment, and you weren't able to kind of lift up your hand and say, hang on a second, I don't feel okay with this. And they just still kind of strapped you in, and off they went, drill on, and off we go. And nail trimming is such a funny one, because it seems like such an innocuous procedure, right? Oh, well, just take them in to get their nails trimmed. But actually, when you think about it from the dog's perspective, they have to give up their paws to us. Their paws are extremely sensitive. They've got lots of nerve endings running through them. And if he's had previous experiences with nail trimming where maybe his nails were cut too short and somebody nicked his nerves and his blood supply, he would have learned from that having his nails clipped is a really unpleasant experience and can be really painful. And we see a lot of dogs that feel exactly like that. So with Mutley, what we actually did for a long time, Eileen, is we sedated him, didn't we, to do everything, vaccines and bloods and nail trim. We did it all in one go, and we just gave him a little sedative injection so that he didn't have to experience that stress.
Yeah, and it's worked out beautifully. He still doesn't like getting it done, but I now give him, cheese strings, the ones that you peel. So kind of dangle it down, and he's got to work to get it. So I've got somebody doing that, and I'm busy clipping it. His nails, I tried to clip his nails last night, and he was having none of it. So again, I stopped. And I gave him all of the cheese, the entire cheese string, just because he wasn't ready to do it. Normally, he would let me do 2 or 3 nails at a time. And even if I just clip the very, very tip of it, it's something accomplished.
Yeah, that's actually a great moment maybe to use some Adaptil as well, kind of maybe put a little bandana around his neck, pre-spray the bandana, pop it around his neck, let him wear the bandana for 10, 15 minutes, and then attempt the nail trimming again with the cheese strings. But yeah, no, I know that. And it's actually, we much prefer it when, we're able to teach owners themselves how to do the nails, because it means you can do it in the comfort of his own home when he's resting and feeling relaxed. You don't have to bring him to the scary veterinary clinic to do it. There aren't any other people involved. And it's actually a much nicer way of being able to teach you how to do it successfully at home. And then you can do, like you say, 2 or 3 nails at a time. You don't have to do all 4 paws all at once.
And just write down. So if anybody's listening and they're thinking about doing that, please write down which ones you've done and which ones you didn't do. Because then you have to go back, and then, it's now I can touch his paws, so that's okay. But that's like an added stress for them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a good tip. Thanks for that one. Yeah, write down which nails you've trimmed so you can come back to fresh ones the next time round. Amazing. Why don't we change pace a little bit? Why don't we talk about the Jetsetter that is Mutley and his international air travel? So I remember you approached me, I think, after COVID, and when we were able to travel again from the UAE. And I know that you were so desperate to take Mutley over to Ireland with you for the summer holidays. Obviously, you get, fantastic summer holidays, and you didn't really want to stay here. It's hot, but you also didn't want to leave Mutley here on his own. So we kind of embarked on this whole adventure of getting him ready to air travel. Tell me a bit about that. Like, what were your concerns? What were your worries? And how did we sort of navigate our way through that?
My worries were that he would bark on board, that he would take a turn, just get really snarly. And I needed to go home because I hadn't been home for 2 years because of COVID, for 2 summers. Parents are getting elderly, things like that. And I needed to get out of the UAE just for a little break. And there was no way that I was leaving him behind. So I know that I'd spoken to you before, and this was before Etihad decided, thankfully, that they would start flying pets, that I would squish him into a little bag and fly him on KLM or Lufthansa to Europe. And then I would bring him through England from somewhere in Holland, somewhere in the Netherlands to the UK, and then get a train from the UK to Scotland. And then I was going to get the ferry from Scotland across to Belfast, and then Belfast down to Dublin, and then down to Kilkenny, where I'm from. Thankfully, Etihad changed their policies, and I was allowed to bring him on board. So the first thing that I did was I reached out to you guys and asked for your help. What should I do? What should I do? Probably the most difficult thing that I found, Mutley is a very, he's long. I'd say he's like 6 foot when he stretches out. He weighs about 7 kilos, 6.5, 7 kilos. So my hardest thing was, because of his shape, because of his size, was to get a bag that would actually fit in the constraints of what Etty had said. So I paid for him to have a seat, and I got a bag, which a colleague of mine in school actually helped me to just tear off the sides and to clip out things. And it literally was the exact size that they would have. And then just talking to you guys and Ilse about ways to calm him down, about planning his medication, about giving him
the probiotic.
The probiotic, yeah, because he used to get colitis when he was getting stressed.
Right.
And the ones that you sprinkle onto his food.
Oh, the Zilkine.
Yes,
the Zilkine.
Just putting all of that in place. And he flew absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, it was such a great success story. So I remember one of our biggest concerns, obviously, was because of his separation anxiety, and because of his anxiety in general, was that we wanted him to absolutely fly in cabin, right? We didn't want him to fly in cargo or in the hold.
Still no way that I would ever put him in the cargo or the hold.
Yeah. And I think for him, that was absolutely the right decision, 100%. I think there are pros and cons to all of that. But I think for Mutley, as a little individual, he absolutely had to fly in cabin with you. I think we all agreed on that. And then, the travel preparation is kind of, so we here in the UAE, we deal with a lot of dogs and cats that travel by air. We actually have our own department at the German Veterinary Clinic that deals just with relocation. So we're quite familiar with preparing pets for travel. However, when you get an individual like Mutley, it just requires a full team effort, doesn't it? So from teaching him how to be comfortable in his little bag, right through to the logistics that Joanna helped you with, and then, getting him prepared in terms of, so we used Zilkine, which is a natural supplement. We used the Adaptil, which we know works really well for him. We used some gabapentin to help him with the actual flight itself. And then really importantly, also, we mustn't forget like the physical effects. So for him, like you say, he gets a bit of stress colitis when there's very stressful events in his life. So we made sure to pre-treat him with a probiotic paste that would help him not get that diarrhea from the colitis. And I think we literally hit all the nails on the head. And I think he had such a great time. And I think he had such a great time in Ireland, didn't he, when he was actually able to zoom around. Tell us a bit about that, because it's such a different environment from the UAE. How did he cope with that, sort of being in that new European environment for the first time?
He absolutely loved it. We were blessed that summer in Ireland. The weather was really, really nice. So we got out at the airport and met my sister and my dad. And we went outside. We found a patch of green grass where he could just pee. And I'd say we were there for nearly 40 minutes with just him smelling. And that's another thing that you taught me to do, is it's a sniff walk. And then we got into the car, and I was quite nervous again about Mutley because I didn't know how he was going to react to my sister or my dad. He jumped up beside my dad and started licking his ear. And that means it's like, wow, you're in. My dad was frozen like this because he knows, just don't touch him, right? And then we were staying in an Airbnb. My sister brought her dog in, a small little Jack Russell. And the minute that they saw each other, sorry, yeah. Get out. The minute that they saw each other, they just started playing, and they just played and played and played. And it was like as if they were brothers, that they knew each other their entire life. And with that, then if Mutley knows that you've got a dog, and if he really likes a dog, if the dog likes him, he absolutely loves you. So then he kind of fell in love with my sister, and they were just playing. We would bring him places. We brought him to a castle, let him off lead. And the two of them just ran and ran and ran, and he was just jumping like this over the grass, because they've got long areas in the castle park where they let for the bees and things like that, for the nature. And they just played. He ran, loved it. He always loves the water. He went swimming with ducks, but very much he was so, hyped up, but just, when you're really, really, really happy yourself, not when there's something else going on, but when you're genuinely enthusiastic for life. He would just go literally run and jump straight into the pool. Not the pool, sorry, into the pond where the ducks were, and then would come out and then would run in again and do it again. He was just these happy barks, because now I know his barks, just these happy high-pitched barks, and just like, fabulous,
loving life.
fabulous, and then we gave up the Airbnb after about 10 days, and we stayed in my parents' house. He liked that. He got a little bit stressed at times, and now I know that he licks the side of his paws when he's stressed. So we would take him out of that situation. We'd take him off for different walks, but he ends up really, really liking it. Initially would growl at people that were in the house, but then realized, hey, do you know what? This is not my house. And we had the whole place sprayed as well. And then would start barking for food. So, yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting to me as well. And I love this because you are such a conscientious doggy mum that, you pick up on the smallest clues and communication signs that he gives us. And, licking paws is a really classic anxiety sign. Obviously always needs to be differentiated from any type of itchiness or allergies or something like that. But when you can start to see those really subtle signs in your dog and understand the small communication pieces where he's kind of letting us know, I'm not 100% happy here. And then that gives you the information you need to be able to do something about it. Like you say, you took him for more walks, you kind of changed things up. You used more Adaptil spray. You were kind of more mindful about the relationships with the people in the house, all that sort of thing. But had you not known that, or had you not known to look for that, you might have overlooked, those small clues that he was giving you. And then obviously, if we overlook those small signs, then things can escalate more easily. And then they feel they have to be bigger in their communication. And that's when we start to sometimes get unwanted behaviors and problem behaviors
I probably would have thought that he got stung or got a thorn or got bitten by something or whatever. Yeah. And that's like, I'd not noticed him doing that in Abu Dhabi when there was people there. But another thing that we did as well is we have one room that's designated for me and Mutley. So when Mutley's had enough, people will leave, and they'll leave us in that room, and then he will calm down. And it's the same room that we use the whole time. It's like a living room with a fold-up sofa bed, but that's our room for when we're there.
Yeah. No, that's great. Really good to have some safe spaces and places that he can just decompress and feel safe and be with you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then after your big adventure to Ireland, we had an even bigger adventure because you actually left the UAE completely and you're now living and teaching in Germany. So tell us a bit about that. And one of the things in particular that I think we spoke a lot about, and this is what happens to some of my clients, obviously being here in Abu Dhabi, it's a transient community, people come and go. And I've had quite a lot of people who have started treatment plans with myself, then relocate back to Europe, to different countries in Europe. And, the question always is, how are we going to make sure that, we maintain his treatment plan? And I think we had a conversation about getting medication and all that sort of thing. How easy did you find that transition, and how was that for you to sort of move away and kind of make sure that we were still able to kind of meet all of his needs in terms of his behavior treatment plan?
I got a couple of months doses of medication from you, which I'm actually I still have probably enough to do me for another month, I would imagine. I've got an appointment with this lovely lady, lovely vet, next week. And I'll chat to her about putting him on the same medication because I have all of his records here. How did he settle in? Absolutely fantastically. He loves the plane. He loved it when we arrived here. He loves the walking. He loves the hiking. He now has more confidence because he can go into shops and restaurants and settled in really, really well.
It's amazing.
Also, one of the biggest things that we did was I shipped over a lot of my furniture. My 12-year-old IKEA sofa that has really seen better days. I wanted to make the apartment and things really easy for him here. I didn't want him to get as much stress as he would have to with more people moving in and bringing in things from IKEA or whatever shops. So we're in an Airbnb for about 3 weeks. Luckily, we found an apartment pretty much straight away. My sister came over and the movers came and they moved all of my stuff into the apartment. He had been in the apartment a couple of times. He'd liked it, just wandering around. It was completely empty, no kitchen or anything. Very German. But and then the movers had left. I brought Mutley into the apartment and he ran in and he stopped. He saw the sofa and he ran over on the sofa and he just threw himself on. It was, rah-rah-rahing, as we call it, and just rubbing himself on that, and then went into every room in the apartment, found his squeaky toys, found his beds, found my bed, the one that he lies on as well. And just from that instant, he just went, okay, I know that this is my safe place. I know that this is my home. He just knew. Yeah. So that was the best thing that I did.
Yeah, so good. I think creating a familiarity in an unfamiliar place is so important, isn't it? It's all about that predictability and that recognition of knowing something and the smells, the familiar smells and all that kind of thing. And I agree, that was such a great move on your part to take the 12-year-old sofa with you because it was Mutley's sofa.
Yeah. His spot, yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that we spoke about before you left for Germany was how we were going to deal with potential separation related problems again, right? Because we didn't know, because when you left Abu Dhabi, you did have somebody that came into your home to kind of help when you went to work, like a nanny that came to stay with Mutley, and you wouldn't have her moving to Germany. And we made sort of some backup plans and provisions for should he be, anxious about being separated from you. And I haven't actually spoken to you since, but how did that all go? How did he cope with, or did he show any signs of separation anxiety once he got to Germany, or how was that?
No, he did when we were in the Airbnb, and there was a couple of days I had to come into school for handover meetings. But he stayed with my friend in the Airbnb and he would cry and cry and cry, but just not the howling, not the barking, not the jumping at the door that he used to do. And then we moved into the apartment with all of like myself and Mutley's furniture, and I would leave him for not 15 minutes because that was too quick for Mutley, because he would just be waiting for, that dog can count time. So he would be waiting for the 15 minutes. It was more like half an hour and then an hour, and then I would just leave him. But he's been absolutely fine. I've got 2 doggy cameras. And I can guarantee if I was to look at it right now, which I might do actually, he will be lying at the door in the bed that I've specifically placed by the door for him. I'll just have a quick check now. He lies there all day. He doesn't bark because we've got somebody, a housemeister, he just goes up and down the building, making sure that everything is okay. Yeah, there he is.
Lying by the door. Yeah. Oh, curled up. So he's curled up, as relaxed as he could be, bless him.
Absolutely, okay. Definitely moving in with my furniture, with all the smells and with just his comfortable things, that really helped. That was the best thing. It settled him down very quickly. We've got new routines now. Sorry, the sun is shining. I'll just move you a little bit. We've got new routines in the morning. Where I walk him still between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. We come home, and before, because I had somebody that would come in and look after him, I would be pretty much come home, get a shower, out the door, and then Macy would come in. Whereas now I have my shower in the evening because it's to adapt into Mutley. And it's for me as well. It's not just the dog, because I get anxious about him as well. So I have my shower in the evening. I walk him in the morning. We come home at around about 6:45. He gets a little treat the minute he comes in the door. Then we lay down on the rug in the living room and he eats his kibble. And then we play for about 5 minutes and then we go back down to bed. He gets his lovings, his pats. And then at 7:15, I get up and he just goes, and he goes to his little bed that's in the living area by the door, and he lies there and then looks at me. And then I come out eventually and I get him some cheese, and then he runs over to get the cheese, and then I just go and he's fine.
Yeah. That's amazing. So good.
But if I skip one of those things, it throws them out of whack.
Yeah. So I think
he gets really confused.
Yeah, I think 2 massive big top tips in that last piece. Number 1, the importance of doggy cameras. I think they're absolute lifesavers, aren't they? Just to kind of make sure, even for your own peace of mind, just to kind of feel okay that he's okay at home whilst you're at work. And the other big thing are those routines. Dogs with anxiety disorders, routine is such an important thing for them, that being able to predict what comes next and being able to feel okay with what's happening in their sort of daily routines. I think that's such a massively important piece. So amazing. I'm so happy that he settled in so well in Germany. You did such a great job. Really, really good.
Oh, he's superbly happy here because, he loved the UAE, and he had certain friends there that he loved. He loved going to the desert, and he would just run and run and run in the desert. It snowed here last week, and when he saw that, he was like, he walked out and he was looking up going like, what is this white stuff falling? And then he was sniffing it. And then I brought him to the park, and he just got into his play bow gesture and then just ran and barked his high-pitched bark, and absolutely loved it. He loves going for walks in the hills. He loves going for walks in the forests. It's all the new smells, and then it's coming back home into his own place. And my friend Leanne is here as well. So that really helps it. So it's just, it fitted really, really well for him.
Amazing. So cool. All right. So if there are any last words of advice that you would like to give to anybody out there who might be struggling with a dog that's anxious, or maybe a dog that has separation anxiety or is fearful in certain situations, what would your advice be to them? What are your last parting words?
Speak out. Be completely honest. It's nothing to do with you. Listen, take the advice, ask questions. Don't feel bad about yourself. Explore these things. If it's good enough for you as a human, it's good enough for your best friend, your beautiful animal, whether it's a dog, cat, hedgehog, whatever it is. Speak to more people as well, because the more people that you speak to, the more that you'll find out actually, oh, your dog has been treated for this, or your dog is doing this. Even my dog, even Mutley's vet here now, she did say to me, oh, you drugged your dog the first time that I brought him there. And I thought, oh, God.
Here we go.
Yes, I did. But she's read some of the notes and she's now more familiar with it. We're going to have a discussion, like I said, I think it's this week or next week. Sorry, the sun is really beating in here. Be open-minded, talk to more people. You'll find out that more people have been for behavior treatments, modifications, medication, you name it. Open mind, see how it goes. And only go to somebody that you know that you can really, really trust as well. Like I said, not some new age kind of, take some pills and everything will be fine. Because I didn't want that. I was afraid for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for your amazing parting words. I think there's such a lot of strength to be gotten from community and, like you say, having conversations with other people. And it's actually really interesting to me that when I talk to clients about their pets' mental health, how they open up about their own mental health. And again, it's just about breaking down those boundaries and breaking down those barriers, that mental health should not be a taboo topic. It's something that affects probably all of us at some point in our lives to some degree. And, and we need to afford that same empathy and compassion to our pets that we are starting to learn to afford to our fellow humans. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today and sharing your story. It's so inspirational. And Mutley's just been such a firm favorite of mine. He was one of my earliest cases. I think out of all of I've now got 404 residency cases.
Wow.
And Mutley was number 72. Yeah, Mutley is case number 72.
Oh, wow.
So that's how early on he is, the lovely boy. But yeah, I'm so pleased to hear that things are going so well for you. And thanks so much for joining us. I'm sure there are going to be many people listening to this episode that get a lot of hope and inspiration from yours and Mutley's story. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. We're going to see you next week with episode 13. And that was all from Eileen and myself for episode 12 for today. So bye for now.